All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A again. I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. So I don't know, a lot of different things. A lot of different things could speak about. I think one is that we see what's going on, in general, in the world, and essentially it calls into question our Emunah, right? Basically, our faith, our belief, in God. So Emunah, just in general, not something that's based necessarily on logic. Reason also, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get to Emunah. Why? Because the person may think, oh, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that, maybe it's like the other thing. So it could be you prove your reasons wrong. So Emunah, we could say, and it's going to differ by people with different levels, but Emunah itself is really seeing something firsthand. Right? You see it firsthand, as we always say, there's no similarity. Seeing something as hearing it, meaning, or ain't no mishmir real, as I said it backwards, right? Nothing compared to hearing something if you see it. You see it yourself, right? So, Emunah itself, or let's say better over here, reason, what can reason do? Help you understand what you see, right? In other words, helps you evaluate what's going on. Now, when it comes to Emunah in general, you're not relying on yourself. You put your best foot forward, as the Chosavova says, and duties of the heart, no guarantee for success, right? But you put your best foot forward. So, very interesting. The Gemara says that a thief also has Emunah. He's also got faith in God. Why? Because he's got to break into a house, let's say, risking his life. Right? Because he knows if he breaks in, owner of the house could kill him. Right? It's risk of life to him, to the victim. And what does he say sincerely? It sounds kind of funny. But he cries out and he says, God help me. God help me over here. Now, interesting enough, he's got faith. Even though he's doing the wrong thing, he's got faith. It's God. He hears his cry. Right? But it kind of escapes them that, God is going to provide protection without God allowing him to steal, like kind of contradiction in terms, right? In a certain way. So, Emunah can come at different levels. Some people may have a level of Emunah, right? Some people less, depends on the test, right? Depends on the test over here. Sometimes the test can be very hard, right? Sometimes the test can be very hard. And what do we see a lot of times? That we really have to admit is that we're not in control. We're not in control. Now, does that mean I don't do anything? Does that mean I don't put my best foot forward? Doesn't mean that. It means I got to do what I need to do. Okay. So if we need to do what we need to do, so we say it's no guarantee. No guarantee. Now the Gemara says, in Tractate Brachot, then really it's also Gemara and Gittin. And the person is not allowed to be afraid. Right? The contradiction in the Gemara and Gittin. One place says you are allowed to, one place says not allowed to. And it answers up by the Gemara in Brachos. But the Gemara in Brachos says, what do you have to be afraid of? What do you have to have fear of? Forgetting the Torah. Rashi said. That's what you have to have fear of. Everything else, right? You shouldn't be afraid. Now, does that mean I'm allowed to take chances? No. Does that mean I can just do whatever I want? No. Now, a lot of times, a person will be in a situation and they'll say, well, I better be very careful here. Because if I'm not careful, what can happen? I can cause damage. Or I can lose my job, or any number of things. Right? So being prepared and doing what I need to do, that's preparation. That's not a lack of Emunah. Right? There's different ways to look, at a person's Emunah. Everyone can be about bitachon, have plenty of faith in God, in the way He runs the world, when everything's good. When everything is smooth. Right? When everything is smooth, we're the biggest believers. What about when things don't go so smooth? What about when things are totally upside down? You don't know which way to turn. So that's the real test. But a person should be able to see, over time, we're not in control. There are many things we're not in control of. But you have to acknowledge you're not in control. Saying the word's not enough. I mean, that's good. I heard someone say recently, you can only control what you can control. It's a very interesting statement. If you're acknowledging God in that, very good. Then it's still not a really true statement, because God is the one in control, not me. And not anything I do. What a person can say, you can only control what you can control. A person could say that does not mean there's a God in the world. That doesn't mean He's in charge. Doesn't mean that. Right? But you could ask a question, and if someone's going to make such a statement and say we can only control what we can control. And that which we can't control, is there anyone in control of that? Nice philosophical question. Now, someone may say no. Someone might straight out and say no. Because if I'm not in control, then who's in control? My boss is in control. The landlord is in control. It's the police, it's the army. Who's in control? The reality is nobody's in control. We can think, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, I have this strategy, that strategy. But there's only one person, one being that knows from beginning to end what's going to be. That's God Himself. He's got it all planned. He knows what's going to be. Everybody else, we could say, I think this, I think that, I think the other thing. Any guarantees in life too? Death and taxes. That's guaranteed. Anything else? We have no idea. No idea. Right, I told the story about a doctor, and he thinks he's in control, and he's the one running the show, and the doctor himself cannot even control his own body. Okay. See, we saw that conclusion. Now, other people may also agree. Catch 22 to say, I'm not in control of my body. I can't tell what's going to be in my insides and this and that. But they won't acknowledge there's a God, maybe, that he's in control. So Emunah over here means I have to realize I have to rely on someone else. Or I have to rely on other people. Now, that could be a leap of faith. People could say they want to help you, they could help you, whatever. And let's say they don't. Or let's say it doesn't go as planned, or whatever. Right? So let's say it doesn't happen like that. Person's disappointed. Well, this is my group Q&A this week. Disappointment. You rely on somebody, they don't come through. Well, let's say you have to rely on yourself. Right? The person, let's say they have a job. There's certain things you got to do. You know, some things you do better, some things not. You know, let's say you got the boss always looking over your shoulder, or someone else looking over your shoulder. So you'll say, I got to be a lot more careful. I don't want to make mistakes. Okay. I want to keep my job. Makes sense. But let's say a person took a job. We'll use the job as an example. Let's say someone took a job and you knew from the very beginning that the person you're working for is not going to be easy to work for. You know, you have difference of opinion and a lot of things. But they're the ones calling the shots. So now you got to be a lot more careful. You got to be a lot more careful. Why would a person have to be more careful? Because you don't want to lose your job. Because you know what the stakes are. Stakes are very high. What could happen? So I would say, based on that, if you're extra careful and you're working hard to make sure you do what you need to do without getting entangled with the boss, is that a lack of Emunah? That's not a lack of Emunah. That you're putting your best foot forward. By putting your best foot forward, that still shows God's in control. Because I have to put my best foot forward. I'm obligated to do that. In many ways. I can't just go in there and say, well, everything's going to turn out for good. I don't have to do anything. Not true. Well, nobody's on that level. The Vilna Gaon of Elijah Vilna more than 250 years ago said, if you put all your faith in God at all times, you don't go to the doctors, you sit and learn all day, you read, you say Tehillim, you're not working, you're not trying to work. If you do everything like that, God takes care of all your needs. If at any time you put your best foot forward a little bit, then you can't do that. That's what the Vilna Gaon said. Can't do that. If you're relying on God for everything, you're relying on for everything. And otherwise, You got to put your best foot forward. The bottom line is God's in control. You want you to be successful, you'll be successful. You want you to have stumbling blocks, you have stumbling blocks. You want you to pray harder, it'll make you pray harder. But see, when I have to prepare, and I know certain circumstances, if I'm not careful, then there could be very bad repercussions. There can be very bad repercussions. That's not a lack of faith. Let's be realistic. I was in a few situations like that. You know, you got to be careful. It didn't help me either. But, you know, looking out for yourself in the bigger picture, right? That's called ishtadlus. That's called putting your best foot forward. Worrying about what other people think, someone could snitch on you, other things, you know, make your life a misery. These are real things. Someone asked me many years ago, you know, a certain worker causing problems. And I don't think it's to the extent they would have lost their job, but causing significant problems. The person said, let me just, you know, knock him off. I mean, not kill him. But just take care of him. That's not the Jewish way. We have to look out for ourselves. That's true. Can't let anyone step all over you. Other things, life is complex. Tell you the truth, the person, you know, could be working, again, we'll just use this as an example, working somewhere. Been working there for years and years, one wrong statement, could be something they said off the cuff. That's it. Got them the job. I've been there for 20 years, so what? Doesn't matter. Should have been more careful. So you're going to say, hey, how could that happen? How can that happen according to nature? At that point, God says, okay, you're done over here. You're going to say something, lose your job, and you have to find something else. Other doors will open. Now, that person would have thought they would have lost their job because of it? No. Been there for so long, and that's what happens. Many things can happen. You know, when we're dependent on others, that's called Emunah. We're dependent on them to help us for whatever reason. And we can get disappointed. This will be the other side, right? We can get disappointed. We could say, well, maybe life isn't fair. I needed this person. I needed this. Okay. I'll take a look at this in a few different ways. Right? So let's analyze. You need someone to come through for you in a major way, and let's say they did it, or they couldn't, or whatever. But you're relying on them. So this is major disappointment. Now you could look at it and say, I put my best foot forward. This person had the potential to help me, and they didn't. Or they couldn't. Right, let's say. Now, you could look at it and say, they maybe didn't do enough, scrutinize the whole thing. It sounds very dependent on you, make them feel worse. But essentially, what happens? What is God telling you in that situation? God's telling you put your best foot forward. Someone could have helped you in a major way. Shuas Hashem Ge'erifying, salvation of God comes in the blink of an eyelash, but not through this person. That's major disappointment, though. But the way to see it in the bigger picture is, okay, this person is not the right messenger. Or is not supposed to be this way. But someone's going to say, I was counting on it. Shouldn't have been counting on it. If it happens, very good. If it doesn't happen, go to plan B. Or you make up plan B or plan Z. God's never going to let anyone, get stuck in quicksand. It's going to help them one way or another. Question is, who's the best messenger? When a person could say, yeah, but I needed this and I needed that, and I was relying on them. You're not relying on man here. You're putting your best foot forward, hoping they can help you in a certain situation. So it's a twofold prayer over here. You're praying the person can help you. But the real prayer is you're praying that God can help you through this person. That is the main prayer here. Because you're not just relying on man. So you could be disappointed on the one hand. And say, hey, I was expecting something, this, that, didn't happen. That's disappointing. People will be disappointed. Does that mean all the doors are shut? No. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean it at all. It just means this door temporarily got blocked. It's not going to come from that. Okay? Where's it going to come from? Only a Kodesh Baruch Hu knows. Only God knows. I'll tell you, in certain things I see in my own eyes. Things, yeah, over the years, disappointed, maybe even a little bit angry, certain things, okay. But you know what? God has a way of working things out. And even if, person had an opportunity for something, let's say, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it didn't pan out. So you're upset, this is something you needed, whatever it was. Then 8 years later, under different circumstances, way different circumstances, things open up like you never would have imagined. Can't imagine. Right? So I'll make it more concrete. I had my own learning center. I had a cold many years ago, funding it myself. And then all the money disappeared. All the money disappeared. So I had much bigger plans for what I started. Started something good, had a very good foundation. Okay, plan B was not meant to be. And plan C was not meant to be. But what kept nagging at me was things were going, why didn't it happen? Obviously, God didn't want it to happen. Okay. Now you can say, why are you trying to figure it out? You're right. It's probably a waste of time trying to figure it out. But I'll tell you in hindsight what I came up with. So more than 20 years ago, if I wanted to set up something, beyond what I was doing, would it have been successful? Could have been. All right. I'll say with my big ego, it could have been successful. But 20 years later, different world experience, different knowledge, different level of knowledge in many different ways. This is a whole different ballgame. Even in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have expected what happened. I'm saying knowledge would. Experience would. So now you look back on it and you say, you had the rug taken out from under you. Not an easy situation, true. What really bothered me beyond anything else, and it's really not a question, it wasn't a question on God. It was a question that if you seemed to be good at what you're doing, to have success, or you tasted a little bit of success. Why to get ripped out from under you? Why do you get taken away in that way? Right? Why is that? That was my question. If you're telling me, if you want to tell me, person didn't have success, never tasted it, wasn't meant to be, okay. But if you tasted success, let's say, and this is something very real, so what happened over here? I have an answer. 20 years later, I have an answer. And the answer is you wouldn't have been able to do what you wanted to do because you're lacking different things. And because of that, you have to go through certain things to gain that. So now it's a different ballgame. Now it's a whole different thing. But you're going to say, but wasn't it painful going through it? Yeah. I'm not going to say no, it was painful. In a lot of ways. A lot of ways that cannot be mentioned in public. Yeah. But I would say that because I had to go through that and other things, I gained different knowledge, other knowledge, which now if I would do it, which, still working on this project, but if now I would do it, it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing altogether. I'm in a different place in life. I got different levels of knowledge in certain things. Very different. Now again, with my ego, could I have set up what I wanted to set up? I could have. I probably could have done it. And it probably, I think it would have gone. It would have been successful. I mean, I had to fundraise for it or whatever, but wouldn't use all my own money for that. But still, but looking at it in hindsight, I'm a totally different person now. I have different levels of knowledge and other things. See things very differently now. It's a whole different thing. So at face value, tell me, yeah, must have been very hard. It was. No question. But what happened afterwards? What happened over the years? Over the years, I got built up in other ways. Became much stronger because of it. But I'm not the same person I was. I don't look at things the same in general. Learned a lot of things in Jewish philosophy that changed the way I think in a major way. I didn't have that before. I didn't even have close to that before. So here, again, my opinion for what it's worth, God squeezed me like the end of toothpaste to get to that level of knowledge. And to understand the whole thing and see the bigger picture. That's a huge thing. Not a small thing here. Not at all. Now, was it hard? Yeah. But see, when we go through these difficult things, right? We go through these difficult things, what happens? Right? What happens makes us who we are. We would say, yeah, it's better I didn't go through it. Maybe. But it transforms who we are to be what the potential is. And God, in that case, I'll say by myself, I'm sure other people felt it also, got squeezed like the bottom of toothpaste in order to see what I needed to see. In order to gain other knowledge that I needed. And it could have happened any other way. Would never have happened any other way. Now again, we would then sign up for that. Okay. Doesn't matter. Totally doesn't matter. What matters is what you take from it, what you learn from it, what you gain from it. Would I have been the same person and done the same thing? No. It's a whole different thing. Whole different thing. It's like God saying, I'm not going to really speak for him, but it's like him saying, I had to squash you. I had to make you much more humble, much more appreciate things you never appreciated. And now you can understand. And now you can build from that. And by going through that and building from that, so you gain other knowledge, be able to give it over to others to strengthen them. Say, oh, you know what you're talking about. You never went through it. Went through it. Went through it in a major way. I'm still standing, miraculously, in a lot of different ways. But that's the answer. That's what I think the answer is. 20 years ago, whatever level of success I could have had, maybe I would have had it. But it's not the same at all. It's not the same at all what it is today. Very, very different. But because of that and other things that happened, it made me, internalize things, made me look at things I wouldn't have necessarily looked at. And that changed everything. Changed everything. I mean, still hope I get the message. But it made me see the bigger picture. Right? Seeing the bigger picture is huge. But sometimes you can only see the bigger picture later. It's hard to see it while you're going through it. That's what God says to Moses. No one can see my face and live. So the question is, what's the mechanism to deal with it? How do you get up every day and sing a dance? I'm not going to say it was easy. Definitely not. But you focus on what you have. You focus on the positive. You focus on things that are much more important. You see how God runs the world and we're never forsaken. That's huge. When a person is like really down, though, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say, well, think of the human body. Think of the miracles. Think of the fact that you have food and you're not on the street. And you're right, but when you feel like you're getting squeezed all over, it's hard to do that. It is definitely hard to do that. Okay. But you take it in stride and say, okay, could have been worse. A lot of other things could happen. But I'm saying, I'm not going to mention it now. But, when things spiral and different things happen, and then because of that, you got to a different place you never would have got to before in general. That's huge. That is seeing the miracle, quote unquote, for what it is. That before wouldn't have happened. But now you're in a different stage of life. You're going through different things. So other doors got opened in order to help you to be able to do that, but it would have happened otherwise. Now that disappointment along the way also, okay. Everyone's got disappointment. Question is how I deal with it. Right? And what your expectations are. Some people say never put your expectations that high. Don't rely on man too much. Probably good. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you lean on someone like, listen, I'm in this situation. See what you can do. Are you able to do anything? So imagine, all right, there's a bunch of questions there. I'll deal with them in a second. But imagine you do that. You make a connection. Person makes a connection with someone, let's say. And what happens? You think about this connection, I don't know, in different ways. And a person gets stuck with something. They say, you know what, this person may be able to help. Them a lot, them a little, whatever. You see, I'll tell you like this. Imagine, you say, I'm putting my best foot forward. Right? So a person would say, am I relying on this person 100%? No. Right? That's what we'll see next week, or in 2 weeks, Hashgacha Yisara by Eliezer, that Avram sends Eliezer to get a wife for Yitzchak. Eliezer says a prayer, and he said, the girl's going to do this and that, she's going to be the one for him. I can't rely on omens, what I mentioned this before, mentioned this week. Can't rely on omens, how can he do it? So one of the answers, he didn't rely 100%. He relied 100% on God. He said, I'm doing my part. Not relying on this thing 100%. So here too, person asks someone, let's say, for a favor, whatever it is. Now you may think they can help you, or they themselves have been known to help others in whatever it is. So you go to them, you throw it out there. Say, yeah, this is a situation. And the person says, yeah, I can probably help you. Most likely I can probably help you. Now, in the intermediate time, when this is going on, during this intermediate time, you don't know what's going to be. They can help you a little, they can help you a lot. You don't know. And whatever it is. So now, when you pray, what are you praying for? So the prayer is, you're praying to God, obviously not to the person, that'd be idolatry. That God should take you out of the situation, that God should help you, and this person should be the right shaliach. He should be the right messenger. Or she should be the right messenger. Very good. But what happens if it falls apart? Couldn't do it. People didn't want this, that. So now you're going to say, I was really relying on them. But the reality is you're really relying on God, not the person. The person's just the messenger. You say, but I was really relying. Right? So you got to get that out of your head. Who's the one in charge? God. He's the one in charge. This person's not the right messenger. Someone else will be. But you say, but it's disappointing. Okay. So you say, well, I should have such high expectations. Well, why not? Yeshua says, Shem Ke'erfai. God can change anything. Imagine a person gets a letter from the IRS. Person says, yeah, we see you on your taxes. You're way overpaid. We're going to give you credit. They don't tell you how much it is. They're going to say, okay, how much are my taxes? Go back over your taxes, how much you paid. So you know how much you paid. So they're going to say, well, maybe I'll get a chunk of it back. We paid, I don't know, $20,000, let's say, in taxes. Say you overpaid. So great. So maybe I'll get $10,000 back. Come in handy. You get, whatever it is. So now you're waiting. Now you're waiting over here. So finally, letter comes in a week later. 2 weeks later. Says, yeah, there's a mistake. You overcharged. Here's your check for $100. Here's your check for $30. Now you know it couldn't be so much because you know how much you paid. Right? So you say, so let me get more of it back. Okay. Now you're going to say, well, that's disappointing. So that salvation is not coming from that. Where's it going to come from? God's got a lot of messengers. God has a lot of messengers we don't even realize. And things can happen. I see it all the time. Not just myself, other people. Things can happen you least expect. You least expect. But a person says, I was counting on this. Okay, you prayed. This is what God gave you. And gotta work with it. Put your best foot forward in something else. Not meant to be. God has a lot of messages. Yeah, a lot of questions. Someone asks, person lies to get a person arrested. Yeah, that is very bad. That I would agree is very bad. while acting as an informant. Ooh. Person, well, if you're an informant, I mean, I would think if you're being protected by the police, you're not allowed to lie, right? A snitch is, we'll call them a snitch because that's what they are. A snitch is, they're there really to tell the truth what the other person did in order to get them. Yeah, what if they lied? What if they lied? So they're punishable. It's mostly shame. It's not a death penalty, right? They'll have to pay damages, right? Essentially, they'll have to pay some level of damages, of what they cost. Maybe the person lost his livelihood, is in jail, may have to pay for that. They probably have to pay damages. Again, even if this person's guilty, right, we'll make it a little more juicy. What if the person they're informing on 100% is guilty? 100% is guilty. Yeah. If you tell the truth, you're going to nail him some way. Very good. But who says you're allowed to lie? Lying's obviously going to be forbidden. Right? That's libel over here. I mean, could be libel. Not death penalty. Right? It's a negative command. You might have to pay damages and other things. Right? But definitely not death penalty. What if the sheriff's department or state places false criminal charge in the name of the person that was lied to? Yeah. He uses false charges against the person in his prior criminal history. That's a problem. In other words, you did something. Person, not you, somebody did something in a false way that stays on their record based on the lie. Now, a person has a record in general. Let's say, they get out for good behavior or a sentence is commuted or, whatever it is. Most times, nobody really cares. It's just that, a person went, it's going to be on the record. Person, they do a background check. Person goes to, wants to get a job. They'll say, sorry, we can't hire you. Why can't they hire you? It's a criminal record. But you're going to say everything was falsified. I was cleared, right? Let's say. I was totally cleared over here. What's the problem? So what have you been cleared? Damage 100%. 100% has been done. So the fact, imagine the New York Times probably can't imagine this. New York Times, is guilty of libel. So what happens? Not only have to pay a fine, probably a major fine, but they also have to issue a public apology. Now, if the New York Times caused someone damage, where do you think the public apology is going on? It ain't going on page 1. It ain't going on page 2. Probably on page 352 in very small letters. You need, bifocals to be able to read it. So let's say they issue a public apology. Very good. What's the problem? Well, the obvious question, damage has been done. If the damage has been done, public apology doesn't help. Because no one's going to listen to it. First thing, why wouldn't you hire me? They publicly apologized. So what? Will someone take a risk on that? Yeah, I'm sure they would. Sure, some people would. Yeah, that's causing serious damage. Right? Very serious damage. Right? So in that case, that person is charged based on false, a whole false thing. That goes on the record. So if that goes on the record, it doesn't get erased. Even the person gets out of jail, they're in good standing. When they see what happened, what they went to jail for, they don't care. They don't care it was all false. It's still there. Right? It reminds me, it's like someone spoke Lashon Hara against someone else. God forbid. So if they don't ask for atonement, what happens? That transgression exists, no matter how many Yom Kippurs they go through, and it follows them to the next one. It doesn't disappear. doesn't disappear. Same thing here. This thing that the person did in a false way doesn't disappear. Person's not cleared. They're out of jail, this and that, but they have a blemish. There's a huge blemish over here. Person could scream high heaven, but they lied and it was false. And they'll say, oh, that's your opinion. There was another opinion. It was this. Once something like that, if you get a rumor, there's a rumor out there. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it's not true. It's not true. Can rumors do damage? Yes. And even if the rumor is not true, damage can be done. That's why people like to spread rumors. Yeah, all the more so if it gets the person in trouble. That's for sure. All right, so now, okay, let's make the case even more befuddled here. Person then gets convicted. It's charged the confused person turned out to be from a case where the person was actually the victim of these charges. And he gets sued over it. Okay, at the end of the day, let's keep in mind one thing. Person did something wrong, right? Person did something wrong. Now it comes out in a very convoluted manner. He lied, it comes back, this, that. Let's make no mistake. The court of law is one thing. Court of law is one thing, whether to be charged or not or whatever. Right? That's one thing. Talking about God's law now. Talking about Torah. So make no mistake. Anyone who loses money, has money stolen, they have a fire in their house, any of these things, the person that it happened to is guilty for something. Either they're guilty for something or their soul has to come back and is guilty for something it did previously. We'll make it easy. The person themselves did something. They're guilty. Now you're going to say, but in order to get this person, someone had to lie. Someone had to turn the whole case into a pretzel for causing it. You're right. So that person's guilty. That person would be guilty. Okay. What about this person's loss? What about reputation? There's a lot of other factors there. So you're going to say the person who did it, they're guilty. Okay. Is the other person innocent that he caused it to? Not innocent. Nobody's innocent here. We don't know necessarily what we're guilty for. But see, we're not going to say he went through this and he lost that. He didn't deserve it. In this world, maybe it looks like he didn't deserve it. God's telling you he deserves to lose money. And even if it happens in a really strange way, whether it's because of what they did in this world, what their soul did in a previous life, doesn't really matter. God's going to orchestrate it measure for measure. The person's going to get paid back. Now, if the person who stole from them or did other things, are they going to be liable? Yes, 100%. Right? So in this case, a person swears falsely, person, testifies falsely. It's a severe prohibition. It's a severe prohibition. Right? Not death penalty, but it's a pretty severe prohibition. Now, if they do that, another person loses because of, they'll have to pay damages and lawyers' fees and like all these things. Okay. But it's the person that lost, this is a very good point here. Yeah, if the person who lost money, and, whatever the case may be, whatever they lost, whatever the damage was, the answer is God wanted them to be damaged. They're not innocent. Since they're not innocent, we're not going to say the person who caused it is not guilty. The person who caused it is guilty. That is no question. He's guilty. So he's going to have to pay whatever he has to pay. But the person who it happened to is not innocent. right? That's a mistake people make. Yeah, someone told me earlier, what's going to go on in Gaza? You're going to have civilians killed. It's tragic. It's true. Most likely, hopefully not the hostages, but most likely, these human shields. So whatever they're doing, which is wrong, and they're going to pay the price in this world and the next, most likely. What about those quote unquote innocent people? So we could say, we said before, it's a divine decree. We don't understand. We don't understand why it happens. Why in this way, whatever. But no one's innocent. Listen, I'm not going to tell, the survivors, the parents and the siblings and all that. You're not going to say that. You say it's a divine decree. We don't understand. That's it. But that soul ends up losing or whatever. Losing money, God forbid, losing their life in different ways. It's a divine decree over here. But it could be for any number of reasons. Right? I've heard a lot of people say, look what's going on there. There was idolatry, there was music, there was this, there was that. You're right. 100% right, but that divine decree was made last year. It was made already in Rosh Hashanah. Beginning of the year. So if that's true, that's not the only thing that caused it. It's got to be other things that caused it. We don't know. That didn't help. That was what I'm going to say publicly. That did not help. Am I going to say it's the reason? No. Other people may say that's the reason. Okay. I'm not going that far. Could be 100 different reasons. Could be 1,000 different reasons. Why it happened in that way. Okay. But nobody's guiltless here. There only been a handful of individuals in the world who died only because of the sin of Adam and Eve. So everybody has sinned at some level. Some have sinned, could have sinned so bad. This is what happens. And that's why the punishment is so severe. Do we understand the measure for measure? No, not necessarily. And let's say they remove the charge of the person's records. They don't turn the conviction. Yeah, again, even if false charges are removed, damage has been done. That's only part of it. Right? I'll give an example. Someone stole money. If someone stole money, right, what do I have? What do you have to do? You're going to return it. 100%. You have to return it. Very good. But if someone stole money, you have to return it. But I would say the problem is you got to repent. Turning it, not enough. You got to repent. Returning it helps. Repenting seals it. But if you don't repent, you didn't get repented. Even if you returned it. Some people on Twitter expose certain anti-Semitism, yeah, and it gets them fired. Yes, it does. It makes them unemployable and depressed. To give power to Amalek. God runs the world, and God's in charge. Isn't what God wants from them? I always use the example. Right? I always use the example of somebody that's up for a contract, right? Professional player, ball player, whatever, football, baseball, whatever, doesn't matter. They're up for a big contract. So negotiating a big contract, and what happens? In the off season, they do something pretty bad, goes viral, they lose the contract. Now they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves, they lose the contract. Nobody wants to hire them now. Whose fault is it? They're not innocent here. People say anti-Semitic things, they're not innocent. Just the opposite. They lose their jobs, their own fault. Totally their own fault. That doesn't give power to Amalek. Right? There are a number of things going on here. A person says something anti-Semitic. I've seen it a number of times. Say by professional players, they get fined. Maybe they get shut down for a year, 6 months, whatever it is, and then they have to do community service, blah, blah, blah. If they're still anti-Semites, that doesn't change. No such thing as slip of the tongue. I mentioned many, many times. Whatever comes out of your mouth, that's what you think. That is what you think, even if you want to say, oh, slip of the tongue. No, that's what's inside of you. That's what's inside of you. Yeah. Right. How are they, explain to me this more. How are they victims? We're not living in, this is not 1939, where nobody cares. Where this is offensive. People can lose their jobs. Right? So people can lose their jobs. Why are they victims? They did it to themselves. Who's the victim here? The media saying they're the victim? Because they said something anti-Semitic? I mean, yeah, media is going to be shut down, I would agree. Just a platform for the leftists in general. Right? But if they do something that egregious, they deserve to lose their job. They deserve to lose their job. See, it's very good what's going on now, just terrible how it happened. Israel's the victim now. Until human shields and children start to die. Right? Except for the head of the UN, what idiot, doesn't even condemn it, says, we're the ones responsible for what happened. Okay, but in general, they're playing the victim. They should play it up as much as they can. Show all the images, 100 times, 1,000 times. They are the victims. True? Because that gathers world support for what happened. Like someone told me earlier, it was trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Yeah, Israel's going into Gaza. I don't think there's any question. The only question is when. They're going in. Make no mistake, I'm going to be very bloody, but they're going in because they have to dismantle this group. They have to get rid of them. Yeah. So they're playing out as best they can that they're the victim. They're not the aggressor, even though they're blasting and bombing the heck out of them. They're not the aggressor. Some people say they are, which is kind of crazy, right? Right. So at the end of the day, I'm going to question that and say, in the public eye, they're victims. How are they victims? Someone did something stupid. They have to take responsibility. Can't be victims. Right? Can't be victims over here. Somebody asks, does all halacha from oral Torah require a basis of the written Torah? Let's say like this. Oral law, right? Many times the Talmud will quote something, will make a statement, and it'll say, where do we know it from? It'll quote a Torah verse. And sometimes the verse is quoted, you might not necessarily see the connection. And the Gemara will say it's an smach palm. It's only it's only leaning on the verse, but it's not really a simple explanation of the verse. It's really a rabbinic prohibition. Right? It's really a rabbinic prohibition. But a lot of times it's true. Oral law will say, where do we learn this out from? Where do we learn out that from? We learn it out from Torah. They put it on a verse. Right? There are things, it says the mentions of a sukkah, the laws of tefillin, or halacha Moshe Misina. They were given by God to Moshe Mount Sinai. Yeah, no verses. But there are plenty of other things that are given and put on a verse. Right? That are put on a verse. The question is it all in written Torah? Most of it is. Most of it's quoted. Sources are quoted. There are things that the Gemara will say is halacha Moshe Misina and quote a verse. They're saying this is what God taught Moshe Mount Sinai. Moshe passed it down. Doesn't give explicit verses. Right? There are things like that. I wouldn't say there are tons of them. There are some. Someone mentions rumor, which is not true, does more damage, right? That is exactly the point. When a rumor comes out, even if it stops, damage has been done. Does that damage ever get revoked? Not always. Once the damage is done, it's very hard to stop, even if it's been disproven. And anyone who's gone through it knows that. The lie's been ruined. Based on a lie, let's say. Yeah. Even if the lie was fixed up, people don't necessarily, follow the good stuff. They only follow the negative, and the negative sticks. Right? So yeah, rumors are worse. Anyway. Someone asks, civilians dying in Gaza won't come close to the brutality that happened before. Okay. I mean, we're not going to get gross here. Let's say, these terrorists in a building. These terrorists in a building, and they got, they got women and children, and who knows what, grandparents there and whatever. Israelis come in and just flatten the place like a pancake. Flatten it like a pancake. Body parts all over the place. It's not going to be less gruesome. I don't think it's going to be less gruesome. Yeah. You'll say, well, they did the babies and this and that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I agree. But if they start showing, quote unquote innocent Gazans and their bodies blown to bits because of a missile that hit, and because they were being used as human shields, world opinion is not going to be so strong on that. That's why I'm silent on that. They're going to say it's genocide. And the Israelis are going to say, well, we have a right. If they use them as human shields, that is a military place. Oh, but what's the other side going to do? They're all, they'll make up the pictures also, but even if they don't, they show pictures of people just blown to bits. Women, children. That's not going to gather world opinion? Oh, sure it is. People are going to forget very quickly what happened 2 weeks ago. So they're going to keep these images going to make sure people don't forget. I mean, you got the head of the UN. The UN, definitely not a lover of Israel by any stretch. Let's say, for argument's sake, which isn't true, that we, the Israelis, are occupiers. Let's say. You want to fight against the occupiers, fight against the army, fight against the Navy, fight against, people who are guarding the state, the country. May mean women and children going after civilians, and, quote unquote Palestinian leaders have all said the same thing. That's our right. They're occupying, doing this and doing that. We have the right to target civilians. Who said you have the right to target civilians? You want to go to war against the army. Nope, it's a women civilians problem. The army's got to protect them. We're going to go after them. So say we can't beat the army, so we'll do that. I mean, that's their mentality. That is part of Amalek, for sure. Hitting on people that can't defend themselves. Right? Right? So when their message, you're right. If a bomb comes, that's not the same as personal execution. Okay. I'm just telling you, I don't think people are going to make that connection. I don't think they're going to care. They're going to say that's like mass genocide. That's what they're going to say. I would agree. It's not comparable. It's not the same thing. True. They're not going to look at it that way. They're just going to see dead bodies, blown to bits, and and what the Israeli, what are the Israelis going to say? They're human shields. We did our best. They're human shields. I'm telling you, once the images come out, and that, God forbid, happens, they're going to get hammered in public opinion. They are going to get hammered. Even though people are going to say, Biden said it, and others have said it, they have right to defend themselves, and they're going to do their best not to kill, human shields. Okay, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. I would say it's impossible not to happen. Yeah. I'm saying once people start to die, they're not going to make that comparison. They're not going to. They're going to say they're equatable. They're going to say the same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter they executed him or not. So what? They're bombing and they're killing him. World opinion's going to forget very quickly. That's what I'm telling you. That's what's going to happen. They're going to gang up on Israel afterwards. Trying to, people are trying to say, make a ceasefire. They're not going to make a ceasefire. If you tell me they got the hostages out and this and that, and they're still pummeling them and whatever, yeah, then world opinion will say that's too much. That's too much. But this is a very big double standard. Very big double standard. Any other country, if this is happening, I use the example of Texas and Mexico. Mexico was sending missiles into Texas. United States would have flattened Mexico like a pancake. Nothing to talk about. Nothing. No, all these sirens going on, this and that. All these missiles, they would have gone in there and killed everybody. They don't care about world opinion. You were threatening our people. So you're going to die. We're going to go in and we're going to slaughter you. That's what we're going to do. Any other country has a right. Israel doesn't have a right. Why don't they have a right? They have to be so much more moral than anyone else. I'm telling you, you get soldiers, God forbid, they go in there. They go into a house, well, the house booby trapped. And you got this grandmother, little kids, they got hand grenades, this and that. What do? What in the world do you do? You have an opportunity to kill them, otherwise hand grenades, whose life comes first? It's a no-win situation. It's a no-win situation. I'm saying that the politics would be unbelievable here. Because once they see human, what do you call it, civilians, and everybody knows they're using them as human shields. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows a lot of their own people, they want to let escape. That's not going to mean anything. That is not going to mean anything over here. Later on down the line. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing, but what are you going to do? What in the world are you supposed to do? You have to be that moral? My idea is, we're not going to be popular, but, we said before, without, wiping out the idea of Hamas, because I mentioned last week that, they've indoctrinated so many people. So you wipe out the leaders and everyone else, and then you still have the next generation. Right? The only solution is like what Samuel the prophet said to King Saul against the Amalek. You wipe them all out. You just wipe them all out. That's it. That's how you stop it. You wipe out the next generation also. But they won't do that. Obviously, they're not going to do that. Well, the opinion would slaughter them. It's how can you do that? It's genocide. I don't think there's another way to stop it. Right? Question how far it goes. Yeah. Any other questions here? Okay. Sure, Psalm which is used when someone falls sick. Depends how sick. I would say if someone's like really sick, you say Psalm 121 and 130. Those are the two major Psalms. Pray for someone's recovery or someone's in a dangerous situation, something like that. Psalm 121 and Psalm 130. Yeah. Any other? You're right. Again, someone here points out, Hamas bragged about it, put up all these videos and, and all this and all that. Israel will be held. I'm just saying, Israel will be held to a different standard. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right at all. Even if they're more humane. Even if they're 10 times more humane than Hamas will ever be. Okay? They'll lose that battle. They 100% will lose that battle. That's just that's the way it is. So, most places agree Israel has the right to defend themselves. They don't disagree with that. A lot of places, except the anti-Semitic one, right? They agree Israel has the right to defend themselves. So my question is, when some people, quote unquote, innocent bystanders get killed, and there are pictures of it, doesn't matter if they mass execute them or not, however they die is going to look bad. And it's going to look really bad. And Israel's going to be put on a lot of pressure to stop. Right? And Israel's going to say, their simple answer is, look at this video. Look at these pictures. We're not stopping. Right? That's their weapon. That's their weapon they're going to use, but they're going to get a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I think that is the reality. Someone asked how we're going according to what I'm hearing. They're talking, they've killed more than 1,500 terrorists, and they're bombing, the heck out of these places. So, they're trying to basically either starve them to death or, not going to have enough energy to keep these tunnels going, suffocate eventually. So that, and if they need air and different things, they're going to have to come out. If they come out, they're as good as dead, right? So, they're doing other things before they have to go in. I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to have to go in. But, keep in mind, Hezbollah has, 150,000 missiles. And you have other things going on in the country also. So they're on different fronts over here. Right. So what they're doing is bombing installations, killing, operatives and heads of Hamas and different things. Okay. They want to bomb them into submission. Is it going to happen without them going on the ground? If they don't go on the ground, even if something gets negotiated, it's a major failure. Major failure. So, they got to save face over here. If even they get the hostages back, which I don't think they will, but let's say they're negotiated out. All the hostages are negotiated out. They still have to go in. They made a statement, which I think is true. Whether it happened or not is a different issue. You have to eradicate all these people. That's what you got to do. You got to break them. You got to destroy them. What's the way to destroy them? What is the only way to destroy them? The only way to destroy them is to kill them. Now, the question is, are they going to retake it? Will they retake Gaza? They don't want to. They don't want to be occupiers. That's why they left. They don't want that responsibility, 1.5 million people. But the problem is also, if you put someone normal in there, you get rid of Hamas and, it could be a normal place, quote unquote. Yeah, we're going to put in power them. Who's going to take over? They're the worst enemy. They had election, they took over. Totally took over. That's why they didn't allow them to run in quote unquote, the West Bank. Because they would have defeated Fatah, very quickly. An election, whatever. So they'll retake it to a point, and control it, but they're gonna have to be there for a while. And they have to snuff out every single person. And these tunnels are miles long. Either blow up the tunnels. I don't know if they got missiles enough to do that. Blow up all the tunnels, but you have to get rid of all of them. You have to get them out. Bring in, a whole different regime. Totally different group. It's not going to be so easy. Just say, who's going to go in there? Who's going to take over? All these other people, even if they're fleeing and being attacked, they're being indoctrinated. Next generation being indoctrinated. So are they going to retake it? To a point. They want, they want to control who's coming in, who's coming out. Control the sea. make sure no terrorists are coming in, from other places. I mean, it's a big job. Very, very big job. I think the last thing Israel wants to be is to be an occupier. One of the reasons they left Beirut, they don't want to be there, putting a lot of risk to their troops. A lot of people are going to die there. God forbid. But they'll go in because they have to, not because they want to. I can tell you, they definitely don't want to go in, no question. But no other way. And if they would, let's say, get rid of all of them, who are they putting in power? How are they going to be able to watch that this doesn't happen again? They don't have a whole nother group come in and take over the place. I don't know. It was a big mess. It's a big, big mess. Someone there says, you saw arms to come out, so they don't fire 12 rounds to stop working. Yeah. Listen, a lot of their missiles, just interesting enough, not only, they get shot down, but a lot of them malfunction also. So, is that a miracle or they're just stupid? They don't know how to manufacture them. A lot of times the missiles fall in their own places. What happens? You can say, well, God's behind that also. True. Very, very true. The problem is that you just get all that stuff out. That's the only way. They got to be disarmed. You can't put the UN and troops in this and that. You got to be unarmed. But they got arms there like no tomorrow. And the problem is, you go into Gaza and other things. What's Iran going to do? That's why the Americans are coming and kind of keep them at bay. Make sure this whole thing doesn't become World War III. It's true. So what's going to be in the end? I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. And even if they have to go in, they have no interest, guaranteed. They have no interest being occupiers. They don't want it. It'd be like another Vietnam. They don't want it. So, they may be there for a certain amount of time. Just clean the place up, but they don't even want to do that. Yeah, I'm telling you, they don't even want to do that. Because they know the whole place, is booby trapped. And not only that, how many fighters they have underground? It's like all cities down there. They're like living in sewers. I mean, not sewers, but, they got supplies, they got other things, whatever. Talking 40,000 people. 40,000 people, significant. So, it's going to be a long, drawn-out thing. And, hopefully there shouldn't be loss of life. But it's, if they go in, my guess is, for what it's worth, they're going to go in, they're going to send all these missiles in, flatten buildings left and right of where a lot of these people are. And then the army's going to go in. They're going to go in tanks. They're going to flatten everything else, and just take everybody out. That's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have protection from the sky, protection all around, because it's just going to be a war zone, total war zone. I mean, that's what I think they're going to do. It's going to flatten a whole bunch of things and, bomb the heck out of it, and then, go through the rubble. That's my guess. Because, if they don't do that, and they just go straight in with tanks, they're sitting ducks. I'm not going to say they're all going to get destroyed, but they get a lot of weapons. They got a lot of weapons, a lot of anti-tank missiles, missiles and all of that. And God should have mercy on everybody, it's for sure. So that's my guess. It's going to happen? I don't know. They're ready. That's what they're saying. They're ready. Waiting for the Americans to come, but they're ready. They're ready for the next phase. So, but I think they're going to hit it too. I think they're going to hit it there and up north. Question is how if they go in up north also. They've hit a lot of Hezbollah places there. Hezbollah sort of doing their thing, but also they, who knows? They're trying to do infiltrations all the time and different things. They have to deal with them also. right? They got out of Lebanon for a reason. They don't want to be there. They do not want to be occupiers, but you want to stop Hezbollah, what are you going to do? How are you going to stop them? So you say you bomb them into submission to a point. As long as they're still around, there's no easy solution. Again, my workable solution, which is not workable, is just to kill everybody. That's my solution. I don't think that's cruel. I just think that's the only way to stop it. Because the world now, to a point, understands what these people are, right? Canada allowed 25,000 Syrians in, from the war in Syria, and they had all kinds of problems, crime, other things. Europe had all kinds of problems with these people. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. They'll say, thank you for just taking them out of the world. they'll thank Israel for cleaning up the mess. Well, are any of these people can be rehabilitated? Any of these people really want peace? They want peace. They want death. They want all Israelis to die. Someone has U.S. support will be military. There'll be some military for sure. They got some Marines there, or whatever. They got their boats there, I guarantee. We'll be shooting missiles off there also, or protecting, around their places in the Middle East, in other places as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. That we're gonna be interesting. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Waited 3 years to declare war. They've already declared war. They're just waiting. They're waiting to get all their ducks in a row before they're going to go in. But I'm not saying it's today, tomorrow, but they're going in soon. They're just, they got everybody ready. So, could be different reasons why they're not going in yet, but that's the goal. That is, that's the goal. And what's the end goal? It's just to get rid of all terrorists. That's the end goal. So what are you going to do after that? It's a good question. But it's going to be hard enough to try and do that. So, whatever, it's very sad. It's very trying. I don't think there's any question, but, there aren't any, real options here that are good. If you tell me they're going to bomb them into submission, just flatten every building there and that's it, and flatten their tunnels, which is very hard to do, fine. So then just bring in a wrecking crew and that's it. That's the end of it. The whole place got flattened. Very good. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to be enough. So they have to flatten and go in there. And so good. So if they flatten, less casualties. Should be less casualties. But from what I see and what I know, it's just going to be a bloodbath. And I think, God forbid, a lot of Israelis are going to die because it's just, the whole place will be trapped in. How are they going to be protected out there? Protected by the air. Okay, they're protected by the sea. They got their own firepower in the tanks, and it's okay. But they got a lot of weapons behind them also. See what's going to be. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Rabbi Chaim Coffman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, Q&As, ethics of our fathers, controversial issues. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which have a good beginning of the day, end of the day, or almost end of the day, depending on where you are, and everyone have a great rest